At the time of recording, Cantarella is literally going to be dropping in just a few hours. And before she does, I want to talk about Wuthering Waves' most controversial character yet. Talk about the controversies that popped up around her, and talk about how they range from absolute minimal nothing burgers to completely overblown false equivalencies. Let's talk about the three major categories of controversy that Cantarella has found herself in Wuthering Waves. Now, I want to get some of my biases and things out of the way. I absolutely love the look of this character. I love the whole femme fatale mystique that she's bringing to the game. She feels like a character we haven't yet seen come fully into Wuthering Waves and being a more unique approach. The closest thing I would say we have is a character like Yin Lin, but they didn't totally lean into that femme fatale nature of the character, so I do see her as being something very unique and something I was not expecting, especially considering the initial drip marketing that came for the game. But that hasn't stopped a lot of people trying to poo-poo on other people's fun. But before we talk about it, let's talk about this video's sponsor. Do you like orcs or elves, brutal barbarians, or horrible legions of the undead? Well, then do I have a game for you. Raid Shadow Legends is a turn-based RPG and champion builder with numerous types of content. Campaigns, dungeons, raid bosses, PvP, and more can all be accessed for free in this game. I recently unlocked the Hydra clan boss, and I gotta say, this thing has been absolutely kicking my butt. I think Raid's going a little crazy right now because in their latest update, they're giving a ton away for free. If you sign up with my link in the description, you'll get the free epic champion Zargala on your account after completing the tutorial for the game. And then after reaching account level 15, you'll get the supporter Hugo, who's a great cleanser and debuffer for your account. And now these are two great epic champions, but what about some legendaries? Now, when you start a new raid account, it's going to trigger the Alice Chase event, where after logging in for 7 days, you'll get the free legendary champion Alice the Wanderer on your account. But that's not all. For the first time ever, Raid is giving away a free legendary Void champion for new Raid players. From March 5th to March 31st, you can use the code Supreme6 to get another legendary champion, Supreme Gallic, on any new Raid account. In partnership with Raid, I also started a new Raid account and a channel that you can find in the link in the description. Now, a lot of people ask me, Connor, how can I support the channel? How can I support you? Downloading Raid and giving it a try is a great way how you can help support me and what I do here. Sign up with my link in the description or in the pinned comment to this video to get your free champions today. The first controversy that came up with this character actually is kind of a minimal, and maybe this is a bit of a stretch. There was originally some controversy around the character's voice acting when the initial leaks for the character dropped. Now, I'm not one who's gonna perpetuate and share around leaks for things that shouldn't be here. I'm not trying to make anybody mad, but some of those things circulated online, and I know you saw it too. But there were a lot of comments and people talking about her voice lines for her pull animation and talking about how they didn't think it matched the character very well, that she sounded kind of like an NPC, and that people were not fans of her voice overall. I'm gonna chalk this up to just personal preference at this point, because when I heard some of her initial voice lines, I actually really like it. And I think with the later release of some of her previews and trailers, she definitely has some banging voice acting and something that I am totally okay with and I actually think really fits the character, especially with her recent teaser. This brings us into our next controversy about how Cantarella is making Wuthering Waves too much of a Gooner game. Yes, and a lot of this is rooted around her character's design and the recent trailer that has dropped for her and the preview for her story. Now look, I'm gonna get some stuff out of the way here. Yes, there is definitely a portion in this video that is very sexualized, and I can understand why a lot of people have that initial thought about the character. But I think when you put everything into context, it really isn't that bad, comparatively speaking. We already have characters like I mentioned before, Yin Lin or Chang Li, both of which have quite mysterious and sexualized designs in their own way. While maybe not quite as overt or with massive bazongas as widespread as the Grand Canyon as Cantarella, it doesn't stop the characters from still having some degree of sexualized nature to them. I mean, just look at Baiji's chest in the menu. We're gonna sit here and act like Wuthering Waves has never had any kind of Gooner content in it previously, and that this is suddenly gonna wreck the game. I think there's a little bit of ignorance going on here. And more than that, I think just some straight up, like, nefarious action. Well, yes, I do think her design is a little bit funny in terms of how widespread her chest is. I don't think that ruins her design overall. And look, I'm gonna say it. I think this animation was necessary for the plot. Okay, it was. I think, to be honest, what was actually happening in this situation is people blowing it out of proportion in terms of the overall trailer for this character because of this one few second clip. If you actually watch all of Cantarella's preview for the story that got a lot of this flack and controversy, it's not that sexualized overall in terms of the imagery included. I think a lot of people are just really corn-brained these days, and that the second that tentacles showed up on screen, everybody started crying and thinking about what was about to happen to the character. But let's be honest, if you actually break down some of those early visuals in terms of like the character themselves, it really isn't that overly sexualized. Yes, this part is though. I'm not being ignorant. 100% it was. But when we put everything in context, it's really not that bad or standing out much more beyond anything else. What I think actually started to happen is this one scene was included, and then a portion of the community that is not okay with this kind of sexualization of characters started to come out of the woodwork and paint this as something overblown or that it's not. We were seeing an insane amount of hypocrisy come out of the community, and so shout out to people like Gotcha Smack who are just calling people straight out on it. Now, for example, this is just one example. I saw other examples as well, other people into like other puppy play and other interesting things, like talking about how can we stop normalizing the over-sexualization of women? This is disgusting. And saying things like that, well in the same breath, making posts of Kuro, please add jiggle physics, and retweeting a bunch of other sexualized content, but it's okay because it's male characters. The same kind of people are also the ones who were okay with My Day's animation in Honkai Star Rail, and people were just fawning over his man-spreading animation that was included in the game. But the second that sexualization appeared on a female character, well, now that's just a bridge too far. No, it's just hypocrisy. You either just to chill with it or you're not. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to love the sexualization of the characters. You can have preferences and say, hey, I'm not a big fan of this, and I'm not going to disagree with you. That's fine. But at the same time, if you're going to be somebody like this who's going to perpetuate this kind of sexuality or sexualization of people, but then not be okay because now it's women, well, then you're just retarded. Just as an additional side note, while we wrap up this section about Cantarella's design and some of the controversies around that, 100% I think they need to make a skin with her mom's design here. I love the glitter effects. I love the darker nature to it, kind of like we saw the dark version of Zhang Liao previously in the game. And so, hey, Kuro, do me a favor. You're already adding skins. Do this one. I would get it. I haven't bought a single skin. I would buy this one. I'm not gonna lie. I probably would. Better yet, make it free. Like San was. That's cool with me. Now, another thing that has already started to spark about people talking about how Cantarella's, animation and video got way more likes than Brant's animation and likes on it as well. At the end of the day here, guys, there's a phenomenon that is well documented and known that both men and women prefer looking at females. Just let that sink in for a minute. So the odds of there being an attractive female character is more likely to have everybody be on board and like that character than an attractive male character. That's just the reality of the situation. It's not crazy, it's not that new, and it's not that weird. So don't overthink it. Now, the next thing that people were crying and complaining about in Wuthering Waves is a new open world exploration passive that Cantarella has included in her kit, which allows her increased swim speed. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, the Wuthering Waves community was going after Genshin for quality of life exploration being behind characters, and now look, now Wuthering Waves is doing it too, now you need to be upset. When 100% it is not the same situation when the best version of exploration is free and still available in the game, and that is with the glider. I think other people have hit it on the head when we're talking about this and saying that while the best form of exploration is still free and accessible in the game, minor increases or improvements to things like this aren't that big of an issue. This came up briefly around Carlotta as well, because I think she gives it a 20% additional stamina or something along those lines with the open world flight. However, that 20% is basically inconsequential when in practice for the game. You can basically already clear the map by using other techs available in the game to do so with flying. Now, flying is still limited to 2.0. And so I understand some people saying like, yeah, I still don't like the game going this direction. I would prefer if they didn't do this in the game. I can understand that. I can understand that out of principle, that you don't want them to continue that direction for the characters that are coming in the future, that you don't want them to have some of this pay-gated, slightly increased improvements. And so you know what? I'm not even going to disagree with that. But to say that it's on the same level as Genshin with like Malvika's motorbike and open world exploration is just an asinine comparison, and it's not even close. Now, I also will put the caveat in there that if there ends up being another, like a more water-based world, which I'm not sure if there will be considering just the amount of like water and seafaring that's already available in Renacida, but who knows, maybe there's gonna be a whole like underwater region, like something like Fontaine, then maybe I would have more to complain about if the flying was limited. But until that day comes, I don't really see that as an issue. Again, at the end of the day, I think everybody should still just be advocating for and pushing for flying to be available in every region of this game. I recently went back and was trying to do some more of the 1.0 quests that I hadn't gotten around to, and oh my gosh, do I miss flying, and I'm so happy that I have Phoebe. Let me just put it that way. But that's it, everybody. That is the 3 controversies surrounding Cantarella, Wuthering Waves' most controversial character. Look, at the end of the day, all of this is pretty much a nothing burger in my books as it sits right now. We'll see what happens in the future as the game continues to expand, and I hope that we do see flying increase to other parts of the game. But as far as this is now too much Gooner and it's ruining the game, I just don't see that being the case, especially when we consider previous characters that have already been added. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you pulling for Cantarella? Again, at the time of this uploading, she's probably coming in a few hours, so let me know what you think, and I would love to hear your thoughts down there. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to try Raid Shadow Legends, and we'll see you next time.